Hello Rebrand gang, and welcome to another episode of Rebrand Everything. Today we're going to be creating 5 new logo options for PlayStation. Let's go. The current PlayStation logo looks like this, and their current website looks like this. And you can see that they quite often use the PS icon without the word PlayStation underneath, so I'm kind of thinking that our options today are going to incorporate that PS. As you can see, it's used within other icons such as this little shopping bag, so I want to try and keep the overall logo shape similar to the silhouette of the current one, so that it doesn't look really short and wide or really tall and thin inside, because if I make something really tall and thin, it's not going to fit in there very nicely and it's not going to look too good. After looking through their website for a little while and soaking up their current vibe, I decided it was time to start drawing out some new ideas. So in the sketching phase, I was thinking about some of the most recognisable parts of the PlayStation brand, and I was drawing them out and thinking about how they could be used as part of an icon. I think definitely one of the most recognisable parts of the PlayStation brand is their button setup with the 4 different shapes that they use for the buttons. It's instantly associated with PlayStation, as they have used these since the PS1, which came out in like 1995 or I think 1994 if you're from Japan. And because they've used this button setup for so long, it's kind of become a little bit of a logo in itself. Also, they use the abbreviation PS a lot, so I was looking at different ways of putting these 2 letters together and making an icon out of them. One of the considerations I wanted to make was the fact that this logo has to work as just a single colour. On the top of the current PlayStation 4 they do use a PS icon, but it's just glossy black on like a matte black, so I want to make sure that whatever icon I make can be used in a situation like that where you can only use one colour. So what I want to create today is something that is as simple as possible and has some sort of relevance to the existing branding. Once I've drawn out a few rough ideas on the sketchpad, I thought it's time to start tidying some of these up in Adobe Illustrator. If you are enjoying this video, then please remember to press like, it really helps the channel out. And if you want to see videos like this every single week, press subscribe and then press the little bell as well and you'll get a notification each time I upload. Cheers. So starting off simple, my aim was to create a basic icon that would work as a single colour and be as simple as possible. I found a font that was nice and clean but still had a little bit of character, because they use that quite techie font in the current PlayStation branding. I wanted to move away from that a little bit. Then I started working on an accompanying icon that could also be used on its own. Whilst looking at different ways of displaying this, I felt like it needed something extra, as it's starting to look like a sort of symbol you'd see on a medicine packet rather than something fun and entertaining. Once I'd grabbed the controller icons, I tried positioning these with the text, making sure not to scale them down too much so they would become too small compared to the text, because that can cause trouble when you use it down at a small size. And also when you have too many small details in the logo, it can make it just look untidy. I decided to rethink the font as well, so I did go for something a little bit more techie in the end. And once I created this new icon, I made sure to align the central bar on the crossbar of the P so that there was a nice link between the icon and the text. So for option 2, I was thinking that as one of the most distinctive things about the PlayStation is the button setup, I wanted to incorporate that into this option. I thought it would be cool to replicate the actual layout of the controller, so the triangle at the top, X at the bottom, and the square and circle on the sides, because I thought that was super recognisable and it's kind of a logo in itself. When putting the circle behind the icons, I just made sure that all the line thicknesses of the strokes were matching so that it looked all neat and tidy. My only concern with this option is that it doesn't include the PS. However, my thinking was that the shape icons are probably so recognisable by now that the viewer will hopefully immediately think of the PlayStation when they see it, because it can't really be confused with anything else. Or I'd like to think it can't be confused with anything else. At the sketching stage, I'd drawn out an idea that used the stack button icons next to the P of PlayStation, which I thought might be quite a cool idea and a nice tie-in. When I actually tried this out in Illustrator, they looked really tiny in comparison to the writing. It looked really unbalanced, and also when you just take them 4 icons stacked like that, it's not a very nice shape for like the top bar of the website and inside the little shopping bag icon for the PS store. So I decided to rearrange the icons, which meant I could make them bigger and more balanced with the word mark. It also made a nicer icon, and it was more of that square silhouette that I'm looking for, so that it can be used across the website header, shopping bag icon, in the footer of websites, on the top of the PlayStation, everywhere like that, without looking too stretched or rectangular. I hope that makes sense. Also on this option, I swapped out the dot on the top of the eye for one of the button shapes. I thought that it could be cool that when this is used, it would animate through the 4 button shapes, maybe just like popping in. I thought that could be quite a nice little idea for the intro, like loading sequence. I wanted option 4 to focus on the letters PS, so I developed quite a few variations on how to show this. I was working with the grid in Illustrator so that everything was all perfectly aligned and neat and tidy, and all my spacing was nice and accurate. I settled on this option where it looks like the text is made up of sort of tiles. I felt like this had some good scope for like future development, maybe adding colours inside some of them, whilst also still being able to work as a single colour icon. I did feel a little bit like the icon on its own, as black on white, was lacking a little bit of weight, so I decided to put this inside a black box, which kind of filled it in and gave it just that little bit more strength that I felt like it needed. And then I kind of liked the box, but then it kind of looked like I just slapped it in a box and made it white, so I decided to round the bottom edges, which made it look more like a tab. And then I thought that could work quite nicely. Say on the header of the website, you could just have that like hanging off the top, which makes it look like it's meant to be there rather than you've just put a box behind it to strengthen it up. Just thought that could be a nice little tie-in, and something that I could develop across the rest of the branding. As the existing PlayStation logo has a bit of a 3D element to it, I wanted to have a little go at making our own 3D version. I drew out my shapes ready to be sheared into position. Then I used the shear tool as well as snap to grid just to make sure that the angles were accurate when I was shearing this to make it look 3D. At first it was looking a little bit like a military badge when it was just the arrow going upwards. So I decided to add like a little floor to the front of the box, which kind of gave it an optical illusion look. And what I mean by that is it kind of looks like you're looking into like a box like that, or it could be a box coming at you like that, and where there's no perspective on it, it's hard to tell which. Thought that was quite cool. But then, even though I liked the icon, when I was positioning it with the word mark, over to the left it just looked a little bit unbalanced. It looked a little bit kind of, I don't know if bottom heavy is the right word, but it just looked a little bit weird. I couldn't get it lining up right, so I thought top and centre would be the place to use it. But then the sharp corner on the bottom was just making a little bit of tension between the text and the icon, so I decided to just round that off, which kind of just gave it a little look that I don't think I've really seen before, and I just thought it worked quite well. I've got to be honest, this PlayStation logo redesign was pretty hard. And I think it's because it reminds me so badly of when I was younger. We used to get PlayStation magazines, and there used to be like the official one, and that was good, and you'd obviously see the real PlayStation logo. And then you would get these unofficial ones, and it was just a little bit rubbish. And they used to have logos that kind of played on the PlayStation logo, and it feels a little bit like that's what I'm doing when I'm rebranding this. But then even though I've said all that, that is only my experience from my point of view. It'll be interesting to see in the comments below what you think of these. Whether you think they're a load of rubbish or whether you think there is any redeeming features in there. So then, Rebrand gang, before I show you our final options, I just wanted to remind you to vote by pressing the little I button up there, and it will bring up your options. Subscribe if you haven't already, and press the little bell icon so that you get a notification every time I upload. Let me know what you think of these logos in the comments below, and I reply to all of them, and I like receiving them. That's wicked. And remember to press like on the video if you haven't already, as that will really help the channel out. Cheers.